Welcome to another episode of Prompted Builder Stories by Agent.ai. And today I'm going to have a conversation with Matthew Stein. So Matthew is part of the Agent.ai team, and also, for those of you listening, the executive producer of this podcast. He recently attended Inbound 2025 conference in San Francisco, where he and the team showcased how agents are enhancing creativity rather than replacing it. And is going to be sharing with us a whole bunch of those stories, a whole lot of takeaways, some unique insight and perspective, both from this builder perspective and as someone who helps a lot of builders. So I'm really excited for everyone to hear what he has to say and for us to all kind of learn how the conference went and some of those takeaways. But before we dive into that conversation, we've all been using AI like it's a Swiss Army knife. One tool trying to do everything. But here's the thing. What if instead of one overworked intern, you could have an entire team of specialists? That's exactly what Agent.ai cracked. It's the world's first professional network of AI agents, and it's completely changing how small teams compete with enterprise giants. Picture this. You need market research on a competitor. Instead of spending an entire Tuesday Googling and taking notes, you deploy a company research agent that digs up the intel. It hands that off to an executive briefing agent, which turns it into a personalized podcast for your commute to work. Two specialized agents working together, and suddenly you've got that magic 1 + 1 = 3 scenario. You want to hear the beautiful part? You don't need to be an engineer to do this. Join the community today of over 53,000 builders creating agents to solve real-world problems. Find your next AI agent today at Agent.ai. And now, let's get into the episode. Matthew, welcome to the show today. This is a little bit different for everybody because we've got the executive producer, the person behind the scenes, who are actually bringing on an episode here to talk. So for everybody out there,
that's right, Kyle.
I've got Matthew Stein with me today, who is kind of the executive producer for this Prompted Builder Stories, who actually came up with the name Prompted. So all the credit to you, man.
That's true. Yeah, this has been a fun podcast to get going. I'm happy to finally make an appearance on here. Got a lot of great agents to share and stories to tell. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so you recently attended Inbound, but before we get into kind of that whole conversation, all the nuggets and stuff you took away, tell everybody a little bit more about your background. You know, I know your background because we've known each other for 15 plus years, but tell everybody about you, your origin story, and kind of how you got to work with the Agent.ai team.
Yeah, I have one of the more unusual career backgrounds of the people that I've known. In college, I was a musician, so I'm a classically trained bassoon player, and really enjoyed that in college, and then started cooking to pay for school and realized I had a better career option as a chef than I did as a bassoonist. And so I actually dropped out after 3 years and became a chef. I'd taken all the music classes I wanted to, and it was time to make some money. And I worked my way up in that industry. So I worked in a bunch of different styles of cooking, ended up at the top French place in Boston called L'Espalier, sadly closed. But after I burned out of the restaurant industry, I got out of that and into tech, doing 4 years of just generic tech support, moved over to HubSpot in 2010, joined a lot of this intrepid crew here, and was at HubSpot from 2010 to 2013, learned a ton about B2B SaaS, about marketing, about running support teams, and growth and how do you tackle all those sorts of challenges. And I've been in the startup world ever since, sometimes running customer success teams, sometimes running marketing teams. But I've always had that sort of technical underpinning to everything that I approach. So it's been a great fit for me to come over here to Agent.ai and get to play with all of these new fun toys that are on the market.
And it should not be passed that if anybody's ever trying to do a dinner date with a friend and Matthew's part of that group, you probably should go to his house because he's absolutely the best chef of all of you. So, take him up on that.
We throw some really good dinner parties.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And great cooking. So make sure you lean into that. But anyway, on to the subject at hand. Let's talk a little bit about Inbound. And you've been to every single one since it started, haven't you? Have you missed any?
I've missed a couple, but I've basically been to almost all of the Inbound.
Yeah. So what made this year kind of different, special, and talk about kind of how the AI and all the stuff kind of came into that because last year kind of Agent AI was kind of launched as part of the conference, but this year it's kind of really taken a whole bunch of a whole lot more of a step on it. So tell
Absolutely.
us what you saw, what you learned.
AI is definitely front and center stage everywhere you look. So, the original inbounds, of course, were in Boston. This was the first year it was in San Francisco. So that was fun and very different just right off the bat. But to get to the meat of what was different there, everybody obviously was talking about AI. Agents are a major centerpiece of what everyone's talking about. And we had a chance to get a lot of floor space and do some great activations where we're talking with the people as to see what it is that they want to build. So we sort of set it up where we had this bright ideas board where people come and they share the ideas of the agents they want to build, the problems they're trying to solve. And then we had another section where I was running things, which is the builder support station.
Nice.
So people came to us with an idea. We sat down, we're looking at shared screens. We're talking them through how do you actually build that or solve the problem they're trying to solve using our agent builder. And it was amazing the breadth and the depth of people's ideas and what they brought to the table. And sometimes they're incredibly vague things, especially for people who are just getting to understand and sort of wrap their head around what's possible. Other people came in with an extremely discrete idea. This is the problem I'm trying to solve. It's going to solve me X hours. I have no idea how it can be done. Take a crack at it. And we did. And we solved some of those, building some pretty cool prototypes in, under an hour, 20, 30 minutes or so. So inbound was really great and mostly just hearing the buzz, still seeing the wide variety of knowledge and how comfortable people are with tech and sort of integrating it for various reasons. But I love talking to folks and seeing what other people come up with.
I'm curious, right, with kind of AI, Agent AI specifically launching last year and this year kind of being a lot more center stage. Were you there last year? Could you kind of compare and contrast just the two? Because AI has become so much more part of everybody's life, but now it's much more of a central focus of kind of the whole ecosystem, right?
Yeah, so I wasn't there last year. Last year I was with a different company. I only joined earlier this year in 2025. I joined in April. And so I know that it was launched as like, hey, maybe this is going to be a thing last year. And this was Dharmesh's sort of side project for fun. And it got such great reception and such great traction that they decided, like, let's keep, pouring some money into this and build it and make it a thing. So we now have a much more robust platform. It's a no-code, low-code builder, but it's also highly extensible. So using webhooks and APIs, you can hook into other platforms. You can rig things to get connected in all sorts of ways. And so now it's really become quite a thing. HubSpot launched their own Breeze agents, which are just a different format. And they're mostly inside the application, and we connect to all sorts of different external data sources and other applications as well. So this really is a sort of a standalone thing that's a bit of an innovation lab for HubSpot.
I'm curious, any themes or like, you talked to a lot of people, they shared a lot of the ideas, they were coming to you like building, hey, what could you build for us? Did you see like common I'm sure you did, of like a lot of people were trying to build these kind of things versus these kind of things or sales versus customer success. Like what themes did you see a lot of?
Yeah, well, we're past the LinkedIn prospecting agent,
Thank God.
and I'm really glad for that. I think we have built enough LinkedIn prospecting agents. We don't need any other of those. That said, it's sort of, with the crowd, you're going to break it down into sales, marketing, services, little bit of engineering, actually quite a bit of ops as well. Ops is a really good application
popular
for
right
it.
now.
But very popular, yeah, and it makes sense because they're the people who like make all this stuff happen.
They're workflow
so
people.
They're the ones who need to solve the technical problems. Exactly, yeah, they're workflow people. So the sort of overarching themes of AI are always it's going to save you time or money or reduce mistakes, and in this case, we saw applications of all three. So a lot of people came to us and they said, hey, we're hiring a bunch of interns to do this job, or I spend a quarter of my time working on this thing, or something where it's like clearly a human done research job or menial task. and they want to know if they can and automate it. And almost always it was a yes. The other cool thing, which we're starting to see more people get their hands on doing, is taking advanced functionality ideas from other platforms, like let's say Amazon's recommendation algorithm, and how can they apply something like that at a much smaller scale? So it's really cool to see people exploring what's technically possible with this wide world of new tools that have just become available and possible.
Any favorite? Because a lot of what you do, right? And you kind of mentioned the whole builder workshop, where people are like, hey, give us something to build. Any cool examples or specific things that you got that are like, oh, that's a great idea that you want to share, or just get people thinking about things they should take back and build at their company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in charge of all of our public agents, right? So if there is an agent that's built on our platform, made public so that anybody can access it and use it and run it for free, it crosses my desk, so to speak. So I get to run all of these agents, and we've got a framework where agents have to be usable, safe, and remarkable. And things that meet those characteristics can be open and available for everybody. Because I get that opportunity, and I teach a lot of the agent building workshops where we'll go to someone either on site or usually virtual, and we'll lead a 2-hour workshop where you learn how to build, you learn about agents, then you go out and you actually build one yourself, and then we have a science fair where everyone shows off what they build. I've gotten to see tons of really cool ideas. So one of my favorites is this Build Your Brand DNA agent, where you give it some information about your company and your people and the emotional style you want to inflect and all the core parts of brand building, and it returns information and it sort of codifies a lot of that. It gives you options to pick and choose from. So people who are building brands can really help to narrow down, what is our brand? What does it stand for? How does it look? How do we bring that into design, to voice, into copy, and all those sorts of things. There's a lot of great ICP builder apps where, sometimes it's as simple as give it a website, it scrapes the website, and it figures out what is the ICP and gives you a 250-word description of it.
And so everybody knows out there, ICP is ideal client persona or ideal customer.
Yeah. Ideal customer profile. There's a couple different ways it could be spelled out, but very important for when you're making decisions, right? That your ICP profile, your ideal customer profile, feeds into your strategy. Who are you going after? Who are good fits? Who are bad fits? And so there are other versions of these ICP builders where you can feed it in specific information, customer wins that were great, customer churn that have not been good, and start to narrow down your focus and help you figure out where do you really want to direct your business. So some of these are strategic level agents that help you build the strategy or refine the strategy for your company. A lot of other ones are actually very tactical. So there was one company that came to us. They were a translation company, and they said, we price everything by word count. And there are plenty of apps out there for getting word counts from documents, especially an image, a picture of a document with OCR, optical character recognition, for Latin-based languages. But they needed a solution for non-Latin-based languages. So Arabic, Greek, some of the Asian languages. So there's a lot of those out there where it's not as easy or not as straightforward. And we figured we can probably do this. And we got about 95% of the way there in about 45 minutes talking with them. This is something where they hire interns and they go manually counting all of the words on this document. They burn through interns. They spend thousands of hours a year just to get their pricing. So if this is a task we can automate, those interns are no longer doing this mind-numbing stuff. They're able to move up to start doing more interesting tasks. That's a perfect idea of something that helps save money, saves time, and reduces, a bunch of work.
And
so I'm a big fan of that.
Just to double click on that a little more, because that's potentially millions of dollars in revenue optimization and scale, right? Okay, now that you solve this problem that I imagine is a huge bottleneck in the company, they can grow faster, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They no longer have this bottleneck of being able to price things. They can, they don't have to spend as much time bringing on new folks, because every new hire, you've got to get them up to speed. You got to get them trained. If you make a bad hire, those are extra expensive. So this is a big unlock for them to be able to do.
What was the reaction when, like, all right, you got 80% of this thing through in an hour? Like, what was their reaction when you kind of said, all right, this is kind of working decently? What, like, were they shocked? Were they
Big
surprised?
smiles. It's funny because they came in, they talked to us for like 20-ish minutes, and then they had to go to a session. And so they ran off to their session. There were two people from the company. And then after their session, they came back and we were like, hey, look, this is how far we got. And we sat down, we did a little refinement, we did some tests. We originally built and tested on Arabic, and then we tested it with a Greek document that they had on hand, and they were just blown away. So yeah, we're going to work with them and some of our builders to, get this into production, so to speak, and start hooking it up to other systems and get this stuff automated. It's a great application, really. It's one of my favorites because it had such a pure definition of the problem, and that was what made that idea really special.
Any others you want to share?
There was another one where an agency was working with a used car company. They sold used cars. And, what'll happen is someone will reach out and they'll express interest. And it's like, hey, you've got a, BMW M5 that I really want to get. But by the time they get in touch with them, that car has sold. And so what they wanted to be able to do was send an email saying, hey, you wanted this one. Sorry, it's gone. Here's 3 more cars that you might be interested in. And with that, you really have to fine tune the recommendation algorithm, because if someone is driving a BMW, chances are they're pretty brand loyal. They might not want to go and drive a Mercedes-Benz instead. If you recommend them like a Kia or a Hyundai, they're probably not going to be interested.
They're going to be offended is what they're going to be.
Exactly. Yeah. Cars are such strong correlation between brand identity and self-identity and all those sorts of things. So you really gotta refine it. But this is something that AI can do quite easily. So we were talking with them, and it's like, all right, we'd want to set up some guidelines for the agent. The key challenge that we weren't able to unlock on site there was how do we connect it to the database of cars, which is all run through HubSpot custom objects. Which is very accessible through APIs. But you would say things like, okay, for these brands, you need to stick with the brand. For these brands, you want to change it. For your price points, if their original price point was $20,000, don't recommend a car that's over 25 or under 15. So you give it some bounds. But once you define all of these rules in a simple LLM prompt, you're able to really work some magic.
What I'm hearing from these examples is a common theme, and you've kind of even said it, like, you need a clear definition of the problem, right? Like, I think that's a very important thing for people to understand, right? Like, if you can't, if it's kind of a fuzzy thing, you're probably not going to be able to solve it, right? So you and I were talking before we hit record, like, bad agent ideas versus good agent ideas. I think this is probably a great time to kind of introduce and talk about some of those. You want to kind of share, like, what is the difference,
Yeah, a good agent idea has that problem definition sort of at its core. What is it that wanting the agent to do? And when we think about an agent broadly, we're not trying to get to nail down a dictionary definition because things are changing so quickly. But basically, we think of an agent as something that takes input. It does something with that input in a multi-step process that leverages tools. It uses AI if it needs to, but it has a defined multi-step process it goes through, and then it returns output to you. So input, do stuff, output. And that doesn't work if you have an agent idea where it's like, write a book for me about this sci-fi concept, right? Like that is just beyond the scope of things that we could reasonably handle. I've seen another request where it was like, help me find my spiritual center and true self. It's like, good luck. I'm not sure
everybody
has the right solution for that. We're all still working on that. But other ones are like, all right, take this lead magnet and let people ask questions and interact with it and then give them responses. So maybe you hosted a webinar, and in that webinar, you might be a data recovery company, and people need to know, like, okay, what are the 3 most important things to think about when I'm doing a DR test? Well, you have this lead magnet of the webinar. You can take the input of the question, what are the 3 most important things for a disaster recovery test? It looks through the transcript of your webinar, extracts that information, packages up, makes it look really pretty, and provides it as output. That's another great example of an agent that fits the model of The problem is, how can I get more leads from this webinar? How can I use existing resources that I have, existing content that I have, and allow people to interact with it within a new framework? So problem definition is one of the things we actually spend a fair amount of time on during those workshops that we teach.
I'm curious, you got a whole range of kind of requests, right? Like, what percentage of people came up with this, like, oh, that's a bad idea versus a good idea? And how much time did y'all have to spend, taking bad ideas or telling we just can't do it, or like refining them into good ideas versus just like, hey, let's deeper define this solution and let us start like hacking on it?
So I will say, I think the inbound crowd is pretty special. We didn't get a lot of people who actually came to us with bad ideas there, which is good to know. A lot of people, I'd say probably 30 to 40% of people came to us with an idea of an agent they wanted to build. Like it was predefined, solved a problem. It's like, is this possible? They might not understand the tech. They hadn't seen our platform before. And we can take it and say, it's like, oh yeah, this is possible, or you might need to refine it a little bit this way. About 50% of the people who came to us had a vague idea of what they wanted, or they took one of our, recipe cards, which is like, this is how you make an agent, not how you make a Mornay sauce or the other type of recipe cards that I deal with. But in it, they're like, I want to build an agent for my sales team. And it's like, okay, let's go through this questioning process of like, how do we define it? Let's narrow it down to, where do your salespeople spend a lot of their time? Are there repeatable tasks that they're doing over and over again that we can help with? Maybe it's getting data from one system into another. You can do that with, data pipelines or with agents, especially if there's a transformation of that data to happen. Or prep in front of a call, like getting a good sales briefing doc before you jump on a call with a prospect is super, super useful for people. And those all need to be refined, right? So some people, they had that vague idea of like, oh, I want to use AI to help this team or to help these people. And they just needed to be sort of guided through the questions to figure out, who is it for? Like, what's your audience? What is it going to do? What does the output look like? Where is it going to live? And then the last remaining percentage, I forget what I've said. I can't do math on the fly, but the last remaining percentage of people were like, my CEO told me I need to use AI, help. And we're like, cool. And usually I would just walk them through the builder and say, it's like, this is how you can kick them off. These are all the steps you can do. Let's explore and help you think about, where can you apply this?
It's interesting too, like hearing you say this, because all of these things, like challenges of getting people into this, are classic product 101 things that people are taught. And in a lot of ways, that's what we're seeing the real evolution of with building agents and really AI in general, is like, do you have this classic traditional PM background? How do we level you up in some of these basic skills as fast as possible? Defining the problem, being able to break things down into steps, being able to break the problem into smaller problems that you can execute upon and then connect them into bigger things. And it's really interesting, and it's going to continue to be interesting to see how this product mindset becomes a part of everybody's skill set going forward,
And I love the breadth of ideas that are capable on this platform. We have a builder who was an early guest on the podcast, Alex Blackman, and he recently built an agent where you get to chat with certain persona types to get feedback from their perspective and their point of view. And so you start by giving it, I think it's like a brief ICP definition, maybe even as little as a job title, and then you talk about what it is that you want to do. And then through a chat interface, you interact with that person, and the responses are filtered through the lens of the persona that has been created. And there's a fair amount of like emotional intelligence that's actually built into that. And so you can have these fairly long running threads where you're bouncing ideas off, you're maybe pitching product features to see whether or not that resonates with the person. And it can just save a ton of time for anybody who's like trying to ideate or get through things, or you want to test a marketing campaign with different crowds just to see how it'll resonate. So I'm a big fan of that agent. The flip side of that, because that was incredibly complicated, lots of steps. The flip side of that, which still fits another like great problem definition, was an agent I built on my phone in 10 minutes while we were sitting at a restaurant. My team was down in New York. We were having a team dinner the day before. We had a pretty big event at New York Tech Week. And we knew we wanted to go out for drinks afterwards. And so I wrote an agent for find me a cocktail bar in New York.
Really practical, important problem to solve.
Exactly. Very, very practical, well-defined problem. And it starts out with what's the address where you are? That's the only thing it needs to get started with. It's what's the address, find me a cocktail bar, return cocktail bars. But in that cocktail bar segment is where I wrote a pretty lengthy prompt with a lot of taste and perspective, and I really showed it like, what is it that I personally am looking for in a cocktail bar? Don't send me to tourist traps. I don't want the trendy places. Find me like the hidden gems, and then make sure that they are within less than 15 minutes of walking distance to my current location. And, give me back the name of the bar, the address, 2 reasons why I should go there. And now you can run it. And within about a minute, it gives you 10 options for where to go drink in New York.
Well, I think the important thing to take away from that example is like the subject matter expertise part of that prompt, right? Like, connoisseur here that we're talking to. Matthew, you know what you're looking for and kind of the things that are important in that's going to make a successful outcome, and you're giving it all that context. And everybody's an expert in something. So if you're building and building these agents about things that you're an expert of, they're going to be successful because you know what you're looking for and you're eloquently defining it. But you're trying to build an agent of something you know nothing about, you probably should find someone who is an expert to like make sure they're writing that part of the prompt.
Absolutely. So you can bring your own judgment and your own perspective and taste to the agents, to the prompts that you're writing and the things that you're building. And that's really important. The other thing is, if you don't have it, if you're not an expert on there, again, use AI to help you write your prompt. This was one of the things that we actually did. It's a great tip. I forget who I stole it from, but I've definitely stolen it from someone else out there. But get AI to help you refine your prompt. When we were working on the Arabic word count prompt there to try to get the word count solution done, we started out with a very basic prompt and saw how it did. And then what we did is through Agent.ai, because it's a multi-step process, we said, take this picture, take this prompt, send it and go ask GPT-5, ask Google Gemini 2.5, and ask Claude Sonnet something. I forget which version we were on. And so now I'm able to compare multiple LLMs really just by hitting a different menu under a drop-down select. It's that easy. And we're starting to see like, what do their responses look like? And it was all over the place. It wasn't great. It's like, okay, this is the first step. We're going to test. We're going to iterate. We're going to refine. And so I then turned around and said, all right, I'm going to ask each of those LLMs, write me a prompt to get the word count from an image, and gave it some guidelines. Like telephone numbers should be counted as one word. Numbers where if there's a space in between 2 numbers, count those as 2 words. And there were other small things that we wanted them to ignore or to pay attention to, giving it some rules. And I had it write its own prompts. And after looking at them, the GPT-5 one was the best. And so then we took that prompt, again, refined it a little bit, put it back in the original one where we're comparing 3 different agents. And all of a sudden, our word counts were coming out within about 1.5% of each other. So really improved the accuracy considerably.
That's such an important, yes, try each of them because each of them give you back different results. But these things all have PhD levels, like undergrad or PhD level grad student intelligence in all of these domain knowledges. Take advantage of it. You still have to be able to call BS on it, but sometimes. But like I said, they're graduate student, not somebody with a PhD performing open heart surgery.
Right, exactly. And it's trust but verify to a lot of extent. You don't have to have the expertise, but you are bringing it into your domain in some way. So you do want to have the human in the loop checks. You do want to have people still looking at these. They're getting better and better and better, but we want to be safe here. And so if you're trying to build an agent in an area where you do not have strong expertise, lean on these models. We have another builder, Kate, who was also on the show earlier, and she's not a coder. She's not an HTML wizard, but she asked the agents, sorry, the models to output things in HTML so it could be really nicely defined. And then she saw what it was doing, and she was able to ask it to refine it and make changes, change the colors, make this bigger, make that smaller. And so she didn't have to know HTML because the models do, but she brought her own taste and she brought her own perspective to it.
So you've mentioned a couple of the people in the community. Like I want to make sure we give a shout out and like talk a little bit because you're a lot more connected to the people than I am. Like I get to talk to the people that you kind of hand off to me. But like how crucial and special is kind of the builder community and kind of what they enable all this stuff to happen and like how people, if you've got questions and want help, they're absolutely people that are foaming at the mouth to help you, you know?
Yeah. We're in that early stage of adoption where, yes, there's the hype cycle, but also you've got those early adopters who are pushing forward on these things. And these people are excited. They're enthusiastic about it. As much as they want to learn, they also want to help other people learn. And our community really is pretty special. One of the reasons that the platform is free is Dharmesh Shah, founder, wanted to make sure that he was democratizing access to Agent.ai. He didn't want access to capital to be the barrier to access to these tools. So anyone can use this worldwide. And it has attracted a group of people that sort of share the vision and get it, and they want to help other people as well. So we do have a very active community of builders and of users as well. And I've seen, people post questions on the challenges of things that they're trying to solve, technical challenges, ideation challenges, whatever it might be. And our builders are on top of it. They answer a lot of the questions often before I even get a chance to see it. So I love our community. We lean on them pretty heavily. And it's great to see, them sort of growing alongside of the product as we add more features. But yeah, the community is very special here. And, we've had a bunch of builders who we've seen what they've made and they've sort of become trusted builders and people that we know we can throw hard problems at and get them to build it. And so we're trying to figure out ways where we can maybe create like a services marketplace where people will be able to make money for building agents. So if you want something and you don't know how to do it, you don't know how to build it, but you've got that problem defined, you can request an agent on our marketplace and someone might come along and pair with you to build up for it. So it's a great way to watch people make those connections and get some cool stuff built.
Well, and I think that's an important element or piece because you're even lowering the barrier to go from a user to a builder, right? Like I got something I want to build. I got an idea. I don't know how to build it, but work with someone, whether you find someone that wants to do it or you want to pay for them because it's got real value for you. I think that's going to unlock a ton of use cases and ways that people find stuff that just we can't even think of right now.
Oh, for sure. And that's my favorite part is seeing the ideas that people come up with. We had an agency who is building on our platform, and they have a really cool concept for how to build a good relationship with their clients while building these agents for them. And so they have these sort of like core agents that they already have built. And when they get a new client on board, they create a new account that their client will own. And then they copy those core agents into the account of the client. And then the client can take them and they work together on refining them, really honing in to make sure that they're as useful as possible for the client. And if the client decides to discontinue their relationship with the agency, the client still owns those agents. So they don't have to worry about lock-in. They're not, they don't have that like nagging doubt in the back of their mind. Oh, well, I don't want to lean too heavily on this because it might go away. It's like, nope, you own it. You, this is yours. And also another part of our terms of service, which I am sure everybody has read, don't we all? If you build an agent on the platform, you own that IP.
It's huge.
So this is not a situation where like you come and build it and then we own all the agents. You come and you build, you get to own and keep that IP.
That's a huge democratization like element that people should know. Like you're actually protected here. But also to that agency perspective, like that's a huge competitive advantage. And talk about like you're instantly building value, and it's a proprietary thing for the agency, right? That they can come and like, look, you're getting this thing you're not going to get from anybody else who's built these set of agents for you, and and we're going to continue to modify them, edit them, and they're yours to keep afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. You're not just paying someone to come in and write another 20 taglines this week. You've got an agent for that. And maybe you both work on the refinement of the prompt and you say, it's like, all right, you could both come up with the new campaign that you want to launch. And a lot of that drudgery has been automated and you're able to go from, blank page to 20 ideas really quickly. Maybe 18 of them are bad. Maybe you only get a couple out, but you can just hit refresh again and again and again in the way that you can't go to a copywriter and be like, another 20, another 20, another 20.
That's why a lot of time contracts have a certain number of revision limits. But with AI, they're happy for more. They're glutton for pain.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just a statistical model. They're great. You hit go and they'll do it again and again. And so it allows for that higher level of thought between the agency and the client. So you are like, everyone always says, it's like, oh yeah, we're able to do more strategic work. It's like, well, we mean it though. Like you are able to say, it's like, all right, you're going after this target market. Maybe here's a way for you to do a brand extension. Maybe here's a way for you to like unlock a new market by doing this other stuff, as opposed to it's like, hey, your AdWords did great. We're going to put up another site.
Right. So as we start to wrap up here, Matthew, and based on what you saw at Inbound and kind of everything else, how do you see AI agents changing in the next 6, 12, 18 months, right? Like we're literally sitting on the bloody cutting edge of all of this stuff. It's changing so fast, and maybe it's like, we'll go ahead and carrot it. Like whatever you say here, no one's going to hold you to this, but clearly there's things we're starting to see take form. But it's also just changing so fast. So where are we going? What do you see coming to pass?
Some of the things that are going to remain the same are the core concept of what makes a good agent. They need to solve painful problems. They need to save meaningful time and money. They need to have a thoughtful user experience, and they need to create genuine value. And I think that more people are going to start running these as a part of their daily workflow, maybe their weekly workflow, and it's really going to improve their work life.
Yeah, that's a huge win. Everybody wins from that when they're able to work on things that they're passionate about and not do the time suck of things that are just busy work for them. That's how humans thrive.
So it's going to be interesting to see coming out of Inbound how these agents get interconnected with more platforms, more pieces of work. You're going to see people jumping between applications less and less as these agents do a better job of stitching together the different places where you work.
Yeah, 100%. So kind of in closing, like I'll give you kind of the final mic drop here. What anything else that you saw or that I didn't ask or that you want to make sure that we share with everybody as we kind of wrap it up here?
The main thing I'd say is I want to see what people are going to go build. So go out, try it. It's a free platform to use. Check out our builder. It's got so many possibilities, and you don't have to worry about paying for the latest expensive models. We have those, and you can just come use them on our dime and build things that you think will genuinely help people and share them. So we've built a platform where you can have all these marketplace of ideas, marketplace of agents, and the generosity of our builders is really one thing that stands out to me because they take their time and have to build some wonderful things for other people to go use just for free, for the goodness of their heart. So I can't wait to see what people come and build on our platform.
And how do people connect with you? I mean, obviously part of the give here, right, is if they've got questions, you and the rest of the team are happy to help. So what's the best way are you more LinkedIn, find you on Agent.ai? And what could people do to help you?
Thanks. Yeah, you can find me on the Agent.ai community. You can send DMs in there. Matthew Stein, you can look me up. I'm also Chef Matt Rock on all of the socials. That one, even though I'm no longer an active chef, has stuck with me. Good personal branding there. So Chef Matt Rock on everywhere. And yeah, find me in the community or online on pretty much all the major platforms.
Love it. Love it. Next time we do this, we're going to have to do it face to face and let you cook a fantastic meal that we show everybody and get them slobbering for it. So
absolutely. Come hungry.
Matthew, I thank you so much for taking the time to get from behind the camera to come get in front of the camera and kind of share a lot of this with us and hopefully get everybody excited about what's to come and to keep building.
Thanks, Kyle. You're doing a great job. Pleasure to come and talk with you.
And for everybody else out there listening, thank you. Have a wonderful day and keep building. And until next time, we'll talk to you here at Prompted Builder Stories.